Hello and welcome everybody. We have a smorgasbord of stuff on this channel. Today we're building a computer. What? Yeah, my computer is like 13 years old and everything is barking at me. You know, I was like on Adobe Premiere and it's like, we can't use GPU acceleration because your GPU is just too old for rendering. So I'm on like this slow motion, like let's take 2 hours to render your videos. So that needs to change. I was trying to install Windows 11. And it's like, your CPU doesn't qualify. It's too slow to run Windows 11, apparently. I don't know how CPU intensive Windows 11 is, but they said no to my CPU. So I don't meet the system requirements, which means maybe it's time to upgrade my computer. It's been 13 years since I've built a computer. So let me explain what we're looking at here, okay? I am an amateur, but I have a lot of experience building computers. I did it all the way through high school. Motherboard, this was back in the world of like IDE ribbon cables to, you know, hard drives with magnetic discs that would spin. Do you remember those? And what were we running? I mean, when I first started, it was like 486s. And then we moved into like the Pentium 1. The Pentium 2s were amazing. But now things have changed a little bit, okay? So that said, I'm going to bring you along the whole journey here, okay? So if you're wondering, can I build a computer? Maybe I'll title this video, Can I Build a Computer? The answer is maybe, if you're comfortable with it. And let's talk about it and see how comfortable you are with it. This is a long format video. Buckle up. Okay, so the first thing that I do is I go to Newegg. Newegg has a wonderful tool, the power calculator. How big does your power supply need to be? So in order to do this, you kind of need to go through and you need to pick things. It's like, well, what CPU do I want? What graphics card do I want? What kind of hard drives am I running? What kind of motherboard? What format? How big is my case? And what kind of motherboard will fit in that case? Okay, so a little bit of research here. So I did a little bit of research. We'll talk about what I researched and what I wanted. But so we're talking about planning here. First, I was like, well, what are my needs? Okay, so my first need is I like playing World of Warcraft. And so I was like, well, what are the requirements for World of Warcraft? And it's not very memory intensive. So I can get away with like 16 gigs of memory. Okay, that's fine. Good CPU, good GPU, good. All right. And then I looked at what are my editing needs? So my other channel is The Vintage Golfer. Okay, so I make a golf equipment, I do golf tracers, and I use After Effects for that. And when I'm scrolling through my edit, or I'm playing and it's rendering this real time live, you know, these tracers, I'm maxing out my memory at 32 gigs on my old system. And it's like very memory intensive and CPU intensive. I'll look up and my memory and my CPU will both be around 95%. I'm like, ooh, memory very intensive, CPU very intensive, graphics card also very intensive. So it's like, wow. So I use this for my editing. For rendering, it's more GPU, CPU intensive, not so much memory. Okay, so that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a fast CPU, enough memory, fast memory, and you know, so I need the whole package here, but I don't need to like overclock like crazy. I'm not running these really intensive like mathematical like visualizations, okay? So, or you know, mining, right? Crypto mining. So I'm not doing any of that. So I just need a good, solid video editing computer that's going to be pretty stable. Now, I put in the information of the components I picked out, right? So I put in the CPU I want with the motherboard, the size I want, EATX. I have an EATX case. You'll see a lot of it. And it's a thermal take. See, I say thermal take, but it might be pronounced thermal taki. You know, I'm not sure how people say things these days. Thermal take is how I say it. Case EATX, like an extended ATX, like it's like a full ATX case with like more space for liquid cooling, which I'm not going to do, but I just like the big fat case. All right, so I EATX case running Intel with, you know, what I think I'm running 64. I'm going to be running. I haven't built it yet. 64 gigs of memory, a couple of SSDs, and a graphics card. I think I'm going to reveal that in the next video. This is planning, so maybe I'll reveal that later, but kind of some suspense here. So it's sitting right there, and you'll see plenty of it. All right. So I put all that information in the power calculator at Newegg. Great utility. I recommend if you're new or you want some ideas, go there, look around, get a feel for everything, all right? So make sure you choose the right CPU because there's a lot of different, variants of these CPUs. And it came out to, I wanted at least 700 watts, okay? So I ended up getting a 750 watt power supply. This is a Corsair RM750X. This is what available. It was available. I think it was like around $100. I think it was it like with I don't remember, but with shipping it was right around $100 and tax and all that. 80 plus gold RM750X. It's a power supply. I look at the pictures of it and I see and it looks pretty standard. Like I said, I have a lot of experience, not in the last 13 years, but previously, and nothing about this really looks intimidating. It looks like a good solid ATX power supply, 750 watts. Some people would say that's limiting, and I would agree if you're looking to expand a lot or you're looking to run some really, really intensive GPUs or overclocking your GPU and overclocking your CPU. I get it, okay? For those of you not familiar, I'm sure there are people who are going to end up in this video who are like, what's overclocking? Overclocking is just where you extend the performance of your product beyond what the manufacturer sets as standard. So back in the day, you're running a CPU, you'd get a 2 gigahertz CPU, and you could bump it up to 2.5 gigahertz. Just really run it faster, and it gets hotter, it uses more power, and they call that overclocking because instead of 2 gigahertz, you're running 2.5 gigahertz. Okay. Now we're way past that. We're like, what, are we 4 gigahertz now? 3 gigahertz, whatever we're at. So, and then now they have all these different cores, right? 12 core, whatever. So people want to overclock those. You're gonna need more power, more cooling. That's why people run liquid cooling. I'm not doing that in this video. We're just gonna run it at the standard, manufacturer's standard recommendations, okay? Very simple build, okay? So this should get the job done. If you're gonna overclock, you're running something really intensive, you're gonna need more than this. But for me, this works for me. I put it in the calculator. This is 50 watts more than I need. I'm not gonna buy a 1,000 watt CPU or PSU power supply unit if I don't need it. So this should do the trick, and I can always replace it if I need to. I'm not terribly worried about it. So we have a PSU. Next, the beating heart. Let's talk about the CPU. Intel i9, okay? And there's 3 different ways that people say this. They call it the i9, or they call it the 13th gen, or they call it the Intel 700 series chipset. And there's another way. So they also call it the LGA 1700. So LGA 1700. So it's the i9 13900K. 36 megabytes of cache, LGA 1700, Intel 13th gen i9. Confused yet? Yeah, you have to go and read a lot, look at benchmarking. So if you want to see how CPUs perform, you type in Intel CPU benchmark i9, and then they'll have charts and all sorts of interesting things. And you can kind of see where do you want the top, or do you want somewhere, in between. So this is, like I said, the 13900K LGA 1700. It's funny because there's this silver disc in here that holds the CPU, but there's air in here. I can stick my hand in here. It's interesting packaging. Intel looks like they took 2 petri dishes and put a CPU in there, and they're cultivating it. They're cultivating their CPU. So this is going to be the beating heart of my system. Like I said, when I'm using After Effects, Adobe products, doing video editing and special effects, tracers for my golf channel, it's very CPU and memory intensive, so that's why I decided to go with a maybe more recent CPU. Then let's talk about memory. I think this is 64 gigs of memory, RGB. So does it light up? I don't know. DDR5, Triton, XMP ready, DDR5, Z Trident, whatever. I thought that was a bubble gum. Now, what does it say here? So tell them memories in here. 6800, J344G, 16. Is it 16 times 2? Yeah, so this is 32. Yeah, 32 gigabytes of memory, which should be plenty. That's what I'm running right now, and it should be fine. At G-Skill, memory products come with limited lifetime warranty. All right, so this is going to be the memory. And then we're running the hard drive. Now, this is where this is new to me, okay? I'm not terribly intimidated by it, but I have some questions about it. So this is a solid state drive. I haven't opened this yet. It's still sealed in package. And product inside is labeled for individual resale. All right, whatever. Made in Taiwan. So this is a 2 terabyte SSD that's not like a 2.5 inch form factor. It's like what is it called? A PCI 3.0 or something slot that you like stick in your motherboard, and it just sticks in your motherboard. I'm from the era of old IDE cables or SCSI cables, and then they moved to SATA cables, and then you run your SATA cable to your motherboard to your drive, and then you mounted your drive in your case. Not anymore. I guess now you just plug them in, plug and play. Some of them fold down, and some of them have it sticks in sideways. I'm going to find out. I haven't even looked at my motherboard yet. You're coming along, on this journey with me to see how all this works. Either way, 2 terabyte solid state drive. To cool my CPU, I have this thing. This is a Deep Cool. It's deeply cool. AK620. I know all my viewers are like, it's an AK. Yeah, that's what I thought too. And you see dual fan with this little what do they call it? Heat. It's a heat transfer. Like when in thermodynamics, you talk about heat transfer and stuff, but they call it's a thermal. Anyway, I forgot. I'll think of it, but they have a term for it. So it's just a heatsink. That's all it is. And here's some thermal paste. So I just put this on top of the CPU, and it will transfer the heat between the top of the CPU and the heatsink. All right. Man, what do they call it? It's a heat exchange. That's what they call them. Heat exchangers. All right. So Deep Cool. We're going to run this. So let me show you the motherboard here. The motherboard. So like I said, I have a thermal lake case. Like I said, you'll see plenty of it. And I can adjust whether I want the GPU to mount into the motherboard, or I can free float it and mount it to the case. And so I bought this extra cable in case I decide to, let me think. If I float it free of it'll be horizontally mounted. So I can mount it vertically if I use this. This is just an extension cable, a big ribbon cable, so I can extend the PCIe slot from my motherboard out to my GPU, and I can run it I can run it parallel to my motherboard. It gives me an option. It might have been a waste of money. I don't know. But the motherboard I chose, let's put this safe. I want to keep all this stuff safe here. Is this made by Gigabyte Technology? Yeah, okay. So this is a Gigabyte Aeros gaming motherboard. Z790 Aeros Master, Intel Core, Intel chipset. You can see the Z790. So it'll work with the CPU that I have. Do you remember how I said it's the LGA 1700? PCIe 5 for my video card. DDR5 support. All right, so beautiful. So it's a little motherboard here. Talks about PCIe 5.0 M2 slot and M2 Easy Latch Plus. Yay. No idea. Easy Latch Plus. Easy Latch Plus. Where do I mount my SSD? So here's all the connectors they have on the back. You can see they have some USB, I'm sure USB 3, USB 2, Ethernet, if you want to hardwire it, an optical audio out, that's pretty cool. What do we have? USB-C. Do we have some DisplayPort? I thought it came with a DisplayPort out. Oh, here it is. This is a DisplayPort out. There's one DisplayPort out. Cool. All right. Well, that said, I'm going to get my case and put it on the table, and we're going to start assembly in the next video. But this is the planning phase of the question, can I build a computer? The answer is, it looks like yes. But we can't answer that question until we actually do it. So if you want to build a computer, if you're going to ask me for help, I'm the wrong person. I'm an amateur, okay? You can ask in the comments below for the world to answer your questions, like a forum. If you want, hey, I have a question about this. Maybe somebody else will respond to you. It's unlikely I'm going to be able to give you a very good answer. So comments, if you want, any questions or comments, I'm open to any advice. If I got something here that totally doesn't match, let me know really quick, because I'm going to find out one way or another. Or you just sit back and just laugh at me. That's, that's how people learn, right? Is making mistakes. So I determined what I needed, found the parts that I wanted, and now it's a matter of assembly. So thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you want to see the continuation of this Can I Build a Computer adventure, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. My name is John Hobby.